What stayed with me from that conversation, it was actually the simplicity and the depth of his invitation to listen inwardly.
And there was such a grounded reminder that authentic living does not begin by trying to become someone else. It begins by listening more honestly to what is already true inside of you.
But people have been taught that healing language sounds beautiful.
Mm.
But the truth is that it doesn't honor what trauma does inside the nervous system.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily beautiful what happens there. And there
Mm.
could be so much pressure in spiritual spaces to forgive quickly, to rise above the pain, to just stay positive, to just surrender. Yeah, her language was around the witness, and that was so powerful
Yeah.
because many people believe that they are triggered, they're flooded, they're angry, ashamed, or shut down, that is the reaction, is who they are.
And but it isn't. The
Mm.
reaction is something that's actually moving through our system. And it may be really familiar,
Mm.
and it may feel really intense in the moment. And it may actually even be a really old pattern, but it's not the entirety of the self. It's not the whole picture. Welcome back to the Healing You Method podcast. I'm Gloria Lybecker.
And I'm Gail Donohue. We're so glad you're here with us today.
This podcast is a place where we explore the healing in grounded, relational, and a deeply human way. We talk about trauma, consciousness, embodiment, emotional truth, and what it means to come home to yourself.
And today we're doing something we love. We're slowing down to revisit the deeper wisdom from our last three conversations and weave together the themes that keep echoing underneath them.
Yes, we'll be revisiting the wisdom and the deeper themes from episode 332 with Masat on inner listening, gratitude, and authentic living. And episode 333 with Veronica Thompson on healing trauma without spiritual bypassing. And episode 334 with Tiffany O'Hearn on nervous system awareness and the witness within.
Each of these conversations had its own flavor, but together they painted a really beautiful map, a map to presence, back to safety, back to truth.
So let's begin with Masrat. I'm not sure I'm saying that quite right, but what stayed with me from that conversation, it was actually the simplicity and the depth of his invitation to listen inwardly.
Yes. And there was such a grounded reminder that authentic living does not begin by trying to become someone else. It begins by listening more honestly to what is already true inside of you.
Yeah, and that kind of inner listening, it really does ask us to slow down, and gets us out of performing, or chasing after things, and we're trying to manage everything from the mind, and to really notice what our deeper self is actually saying. And that's a practice that I've been noticing. I don't know, the more I notice, I can start to notice what it was I had been managing. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. So it brings more awareness up for me.
Yeah, you start to notice, and then you start to notice more, and then you start to notice
Yeah.
more. Yes. So true. And I also really love the way gratitude came through that conversation.
Mm.
And it wasn't a forced positivity, and it wasn't anything that was performative, but the gratitude was a way of orientating toward life with humility and
Mm.
presence. I just thought that was so beautiful.
Yeah. So gratitude in that sense, it really opens the door towards authenticity,
Yeah.
and really softens the striving aspect that we can get into. And it brings us into relationship with what's actually here rather than constantly rejecting the moment that we're in it.
Yeah, because oh my gosh, that's so easy to reject that moment when we're activated. And if we come to that place and to be listening from that place, then we're less likely to live by external pressures that are coming and more likely to live with our inner congruence.
Yeah. Yeah, and that does feel then like a key thread for this whole recap, healing. It asks us to listen inwardly before we react outwardly.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great thread. And then in our conversation with Victoria, we moved into such an important truth that healing trauma cannot happen by leaping over the body.
Right. Our conversation with Veronica, that really felt necessary, didn't it? Because people that 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 conversation really impacted me a lot. But people have been taught that healing language sounds beautiful.
Mm.
But the truth is that it doesn't honor what trauma does inside the nervous system.
Yes, yes, yeah, and it's not necessarily beautiful what happens there. And there
Mm.
could be so much pressure in spiritual spaces to forgive quickly, to rise above the pain, to just say stay positive, to just surrender. Yeah,
Mm.
it's
Yeah, well, she named something that's really so important. And when the body doesn't yet feel safe, then those kinds of ideas, that it's just another form of abandonment. And I know
yeah.
that as a survivor myself, people just
Yeah.
they don't understand what they're saying with their language.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. And it just reinforces that abandonment.
Hmm.
And really, it's really important that we see that our body isn't wrong for protecting itself. It's doing the work that it was intended to do. And trauma responses are not signs of failure. They're actually signs of in our body and our nervous system having intelligent adaptations.
Right. And that's why it's paramount that neuroception of safety, it really does have to come first. And
Mhm.
it's not as a concept, but it's a lived experience. And and we can feel it in the pacing of things, in being able to have choice. And it's important the body gets to say yes or gets to say no, and it gets to say wait. We need to really listen to the rhythm of the body.
Yeah. And there's such a profound shift that happens when it it becomes embodied in your body as opposed to just intellectual understanding. And for me, one of the most powerful reminders in that episode was that real healing is not about bypassing that pain.
Oh no.
It's about staying in honest relationship with what had happened, like not denying it, and doing that in ways that do not re-traumatize us.
Mm. Right. And that experience of really slowing it way down to be with that pain, it really takes tenderness and a patience, is like not rushing, not forcing or neglecting even. It's really respecting the timing. And I know in my own experience, just it can feel like it's going to take forever in the
Mhm.
moment, but it
Yeah,
truly does move through the body. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That if we can just slow down and be patient and gentle enough with
Yeah.
ourselves to have it slow down. And what you just spoke to, Gloria, connects so beautifully to Masserat's message too,
Yeah.
because inner listening has to include listening to the body's limits. Not just pushing on no matter what signs your body's and messages your body's giving you. Not just the soul's longing. There's a balance that's needed there.
Yes, and I want to also acknowledge and remind our listeners to look for Veronica's book that she's going to have coming out because she's going to have that is the whole intention of that book is to give people the language to speak
Mm,
about the trauma,
mhm.
and to be supportive, especially of children. So,
Yeah, so important.
Yeah. And then, Tiffany, she brought us into the next layer, what it means to really notice our reactions without becoming them.
Yeah, without becoming them. Yeah. Yeah. Her language was around the witness, and that was so powerful
Yeah. Yeah.
because many people believe that they are triggered, they're flooded, they're angry, ashamed, or shut down, that is the reaction, is who they are.
Yeah.
They think that that's what I am. I'm just this person that reacts and I need to shut down.
Yeah. But it isn't, the
Mm,
reaction is something that's actually moving through our system. And it may be really familiar.
mm,
And it may feel really intense in the moment. And it may actually even be a really old pattern, but it's not the entirety of the self. It's not the whole picture. No.
yeah. Yeah. Thanks for saying that, Gloria. And I think when we begin to witness, rather than, you know, join up our reactions, um, then something new opens up.
Yes, exactly. And for me, it really, all of a sudden I can see choices I couldn't see before.
Mm,
It's like
mm,
I can see what I couldn't see. It's almost like the unconscious becomes conscious, but this space opens. And also for me, compassion opens. It's like there's a
mhm.
softness that opens.
Yeah, yeah. And if we're able to do that, it doesn't mean that the reaction disappears overnight.
Mm-mm.
It just means that we were no longer captured by it in that moment, and we can continue to build our resources and our capacity to do it again. Because,
Yeah.
the likelihood that it'll happen again until we build those new neurons is likely it will happen again.
Well, yes. And in my experience, when we have these kinds of patterns, those patterns, they don't go away. They just don't trigger us in the same way. They
Yeah.
don't take over in the same way. They don't, dictate what our next behavior is going to be. We
Yes.
can recognize it, we can witness it, and when we witness it, then we get to do something different. We can say, wow, okay, I'm getting, notice I'm getting activated right now. Instead of thinking that it's the whole truth, that whole thing is just taking over. Because we usually have a story about it.
Mhm.
And so when we can acknowledge, oh, my body is bracing, instead of, oh, I'm broken, it's
Yeah.
like, or even acknowledging, I know for myself, when I can recognize that it's an experience that I had when I was younger, a younger me, that will bring the compassion up, the care up, instead of abandoning myself, instead of attacking myself for having the
Mhm.
reaction, guilting myself or blaming or shaming myself. And so it's
Yeah.
really a whole different experience to bring in the witness.
Yeah, yeah. So true, so true. And for myself, as I work with clients and they're able themselves to be able to witness that, oh,
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder if this is my child part here, that's bringing the same pattern, the same stories forward, versus, okay, what is it that my adult embodied self is wanting to choose? And that shift is so profound when it started to be seen and noticed. And, it's one of the ways that healing becomes embodied rather than just intellectual and theoretical.
Yes. Yes. And it's really empowering. It's empowering from the inside out.
Hmm.
Um, because that ability to witness and well, creates a different relationship with ourselves. And it's that relationship, as we say, all healing is relational.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And when we place all of these three episodes that we've just looked at again and we put them side by side, the thread throughout them that stands out for me is that healing is not about overriding ourselves. It's about learning how to relate to ourselves with more truthfully, with truth.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, Gail. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And Masserat invited us into inner listening.
Mhm.
Veronica reminded us that safety must come before transcendence.
Yeah.
And Tiffany showed us how to witness what arises without collapsing into it.
Yeah. And each one in a different way brought us back to presence.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes. And it wasn't about performative healing. It wasn't about polished healing and not healing as this image that you have in your head of how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. It was really healing as relationship and healing as, honesty. And as you've said before, as embodiment, to really embody the healing.
Yeah. And I think, that matters so much right now because so many people, they're exhausted from trying to do, in addition to everything else in their lives, right? Oh, now we've got this big task of doing healing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even the invitation is gentler than that, right?
Mhm.
It's an invitation to truly listen and to honor what is true within you and to really pay attention to what your body is saying and the gratitude piece. I heard something about this just the other day too that made me think of this. When we truly are able to embody the gratitude, there's a big shift in there. It softens. It really does. I feel it softens my heart.
Mm.
And then also allowing that neuroception of safety to be a guide and allow the witness then to help you to stay present. That really does make a difference to recognize you're not alone in it.
Yes, yes, yeah, so
Mhm.
true. So as we begin or as we close here to bring this all together, these three episodes, we want to leave you with a few questions for reflection.
Yeah.
And the first one is, and this is an invitation, where in your life are you being invited to listen more deeply?
Yes, and not to the loudest voice or not to the most scared or fearful voice, but to the deeper truth that's beneath the noise.
Yeah. And the second question is, what would greater safety look like in your healing right now?
Mm. Yeah. Just some ideas of, what it looked like slowing down or getting more support, perhaps setting clearer boundaries or less pressure on yourself, more
Mhm.
permission to be right where you are.
Yeah, yeah. So looking at what would safety look like for you now? And then the third question is, what changes when you witness your reaction instead of identifying with it?
That one is a big one. That question alone it opens up so much space because the moment that we step into actually embodying the witness, we're no longer fully in that old pattern. And that's when something new becomes possible. Mm.
Yeah. So these three wonderful conversations reminded us that healing doesn't ask us to become more impressive with a performance. It asks us to become more present.
Yes, more honest, more gentle, and more available to what really is real.
And that kind of healing ripples outward into our relationships, the choices we make in our lives, our work, and the way we every day just greet life.
Yeah. So thank you for being here with us and for walking this path alongside us. And if this conversation supported you, we would love for you to follow the show, leave a review, or share the episode with someone who may need these reminders too.
And next week, we're joined by Saluha Lahu, and we're going to have a great conversation about her focus on three brains. And the three brains are the embodied path from hustle to aligned action and how these interact.
Yes, and in that episode, we're going to explore what it means to move beyond overthinking and pressure-driven living and begin listening to the wisdom of the body, the heart, and the deeper intelligence that lives within us.
It's a rich conversation about embodiment, alignment, and learning how to take action from wholeness rather than this hustle.
Yes, and so until next time, notice what your body is telling you.
Take gentle care of yourself and remember all healing is relational.